Hello, thank you for tuning into our YouTube channel. I just want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. These early episodes on YouTube are going to be the early episodes of our podcast. A lot has changed since when it comes to the audio. So it's not going to be of the same quality. Not saying that it's bad, it's just not as good. However, all the content is still the same, so I'm sure you guys will enjoy nonetheless. Thank you. Make sure to like and subscribe, please. Hello, mainstreamers and cinephiles and everyone else in between. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
And Operation Silver Screen is a go.
Hello, and welcome to Operation Silver Screen. So normally, our show and our mission is centralized on Bryant and I, catching up and debriefing on must-see films. Films that we haven't seen, but we're taking the time to see now because they've been stacked up on our case files. However, we do have some additional tasking that comes with this assignment. So this is one of our bonus objectives. This is our second bonus objective that we had. And the goal of the bonus objectives is to watch and debrief sequels and remakes of classic and must-see films. Not only will we review these movies, but also analyze it from the perspective of its predecessors. So join us as we conduct a deep dive into these current films. Speaking of which, so the bonus objective for this week is... Oh, hey guys, 1 second. Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Caitlyn? Caitlyn, are you alright? Well, I guess she'll be right back. Anyway, let me go ahead and introduce our objective of the week. So this passing Friday, January 14th, 2022, it had the release of Scream. Not Scream 5. Now, they're too serious for numbers nowadays. Okay, just Scream. And once again, we traveled back to Woodsboro, and would you believe it, Ghostface is out there killing again. In this requel, the killer appears to be targeting those related to past characters in a way to lure back the original cast. But can this live up to the original while providing some new scares and kills? Well, let's just find out. And during this first portion of the episode, this first half, is going to be spoiler-free, yes. Everybody is welcome to come and join us as we talk about the predecessors of this film, whether or not Caitlyn and I are excited if she comes back, our review for this film, and then we'll go ahead and get into our spoiler discussion.
Sorry about that, guys. Phew. Sorry, someone was coming after me. He had a knife. It's okay. I think I'm all right. Let's just get back to the podcast. So what are we talking about?
We're talking about Scream.
Oh, Scream. Okay, I like this one.
Do you like this one? Do you like Scream or do you like Scream?
I don't know what that means.
Do you like Scream 1996 or Scream 2022?
Well, let's start with our backgrounds with the Scream franchise before we get into the new one. So for me personally, I think I first watched the first original Scream with Bryant, actually. Actually, I think we watched a movie marathon, and I'm pretty sure I fell asleep during it because it was late. But then after that time, I went back and I watched it again. And then I watched it again, and I've watched it again, and again after that. And I watched it again this week. So, yeah, I like the original Scream. I've seen it quite a few times. Also, in preparation for this, I rewatched the second film. I watched the second film years ago. Back when I first watched the original, I think I went into the second one. But I did rewatch that again this week. And I've also watched the Scream MTV series, which is not really connected to the others, but it's not a bad show. I enjoyed it enough. But I've never seen Scream 3 or Scream 4. Actually, I'm not sure if I've seen Scream 3. I didn't have time to rewatch it for our podcast today, but I honestly, if I did watch it, I don't remember it. And based on the reviews and reception to it, that might not be a bad thing. I know I've never seen the fourth one. What about you, Brian?
Yes, so I'm not sure the first time I watched it is when we watched it together, quotation, since you had fallen asleep. But the first one is a film that I've seen many times. And because both of us have seen it, we're probably never going to have the chance to do a discussion on our show. But if I was to give it a rating, this is another S-tier movie for me. I absolutely love Scream 1996. And the sequel, too, is good. It's a good continuation of the story. 3 and 4 I had never seen before. It's something that, if I hear a sequel's bad, I'm not going to go out and watch it. Alright? If I especially didn't like the movies before it, however, in this case I did like the movies before it, I'm not going to watch the sequels. I don't need any type of closure or continuation in my life. I'm cool leaving things where they are, moving on. Especially since Scream, I hold a little bit more dear to my heart because it is one of my favorite horror movies, even though I know we've been in this debate before that it's not a real horror movie. in which case, I finally sat down and made a list for favorite straight horror and favorite horror with subgenres included. But I've seen the first and second one so many times that I didn't need to go and rewatch them. I actually saw the first one not too long ago in theaters when it was replaying. Great theater experience as well. However, in preparation of the show and to show you guys how really dedicated I am, more than Caitlyn, I actually watched the third and fourth film. And yeah, the third one's bad. It's not a good movie. Actually, before I go more into it, the reason I watched the third and fourth one is because I wanted to actually sit down before seeing this new one and understand what makes Scream work and what makes it fail in its sequels. Because the second one is a good movie, and the third and fourth have, at least critically and audience, has not been seen in a positive light. So the third one, I did get some good laughs out of it, and it did have some good kills. All right, and that one was also directed by Wes Craven. However, the writing is so flawed in it, and it's so forced with some of the plot points that they try to put in, especially the modular voice, which now Ghostface can literally make his voice sound like anybody else, and they make that such a huge plot device. It's ridiculous. Fortunately, it did teach me something about the Scream series. It taught me that, man, the writing is really what makes this work. It's not just Wes Craven. It's Kevin Williamson, really, that's almost the true creator of this film's success. And he's what was missing from the third film. And you can feel that a lot. But he returns for the fourth one. And the fourth one does have a tighter script. And I saw that the fourth one also was critically panned. And audience did not like that movie. However, I thought it was a solid film. I mean, it didn't really do anything new, but I thought it had a tighter script with Kevin Williamson back. Well, I didn't know until after watching the film. I also really like that movie's killer's motive, the reveal of the killer, probably more than the rest, excluding than the actual original. I think this movie was given more flack back in its day because it was another movie that was trying to be rebooted, which I actually did some more research and found out that, yeah, that was actually something that was happening a lot. And I wonder if society is now more open to nostalgic films. And we'll talk about, because this one in 2022 is getting received more positively. But the fourth one, it came out in 2011. Around that time as well, you had the Evil Dead remake, which came out in 2013, but that just shows you where Hollywood's mind was. You have Halloween by Rob Zombie in 2007. You had Nightmare on Elm Street, 2010. And you have Friday the 13th, 2009. So Hollywood was really trying to force a lot of these properties to come back. Scream kind of became what it was making fun of. But I think the fourth one, I don't really see too much wrong with it other than it just not being as great as the original. Other than that, everything's really there for you.
I think the thing that held me back from watching the fourth one was the cast. I think that with Hayden Panettiere and Emma Roberts, it's very well-known teen drama cast. I feel like they were in everything around that time. So for me, just the casting itself felt a little bit cheesy, a little bit gimmicky for me, like a normal teen horror, but not necessarily something that was going to subvert the genre or anything like that.
Yeah, I think so as well, because the original Scream did have a cast that some people were known, but not that many. Actually, your most known character is the first kill. It's Drew Barrymore. That's what sets up that movie, and it subverts a lot of expectations. But the cast of Scream 4, yeah, it kind of had like that teen vibe, but I mean, this one does too. And honestly, the cast is what I like more in this one than the third one. The third one was a much older cast, and they were, I don't know, they had nothing to them. At least in the fourth one, they did have personality to them. And I actually like the two actresses in there. They were actually giving somewhat of a new performance. Especially Hayden, can't pronounce her last name. She was great.
Panettiere. I do like Hayden Panettiere, but I think that's from Until Dawn, the video game, so she's been in a couple horror things.
So what about this movie? Were you excited for this film at all?
I was really excited. Looking at the early promotions for it with Jenny Ortega's character kind of filling in for that Drew Barrymore titular scene, that really interested me. I mean, it seemed like it was really trying to pay homage to the original, and I like Jenny Ortega as an actress, so that excited me. I think the early promotions were exciting, but this is the age where, once again, we're seeing sequels and reboots and requels for everything, so you kind of have to come to it a little wary.
So I've seen a couple people say that now. Jenna Ortega is something that they were interested in seeing. However, I looked at her IMDb. I'm not recognizing her in anything. And we're the same age, so we grew up watching the same shows and things. Where is she from that's making her so popular?
I think she's had a lot of smaller roles in things. I know my first time seeing her was from Jane the Virgin. She played a younger character of the main character, Jane. So that was the first time I've seen her. But I've seen her in other things here and there, smaller roles. But it was exciting seeing her, especially exciting seeing, a Latina actress, playing that kind of iconic role. I was excited for her. Yeah, and I was also excited. I saw, I'm blanking on the actress name. She was recently in the Yellow Jackets TV show too, so I think she's been in a couple horror things as well, horror media. That actress is Jasmine Savoy Brown. She kind of plays like the horror expert in this role. She was also on The Leftovers, which I know you watched, as Evangeline. She was kind of a mysterious character there.
Yes, actually I watched both of those shows. Sort of, I watch Yellow Jackets. I'm taking a pause right now. I'm not sure where we stand. It's a complicated relationship. But what was not so complicated is my excitement for this film. I was not excited at all for this film. I just think there's not too much for this franchise to do anymore. Like, it came in, it made its point, but where else do you go? I knew that it was going to have its own trappings, which it has to bring back the original cast. It has to follow its same... It not only has to follow horror movie rules, but it has to follow its own rules that it made. So that's something that was holding me back. And after watching 3 and 4, it made it more apparent that there's just not too much for this film. And there's still a lot of good meta horror movies out there. So it's not even like I'm craving the genre. I would rather see another meta horror film than see the original try to be done again and again.
I always feel that if you want to look at some more, maybe not entirely meta, but definitely a commentary on the slasher genre. I mean, I guess, yeah, never mind. I will say it is meta. Fear Street was one that came out recently. It came in 3 parts, and the first part definitely was a commentary on the slasher genre. You get into kind of other things as it goes on. First movie was more of that Scream kind of era slasher. The second one was camping teen slasher, and the third one was more of your elevated horror, I guess you can say, like The Witch. So yeah, so if you want more meta horror, I mean, I would recommend Fear Street, and of course there's several other things out there.
So actually I want to use this time because you said meta horror. I just so happen to have made a list. I actually made 3 lists for this show. I did some serious research. If I had the time, I was actually going to go back and watch some movies, but I did not. So I already mentioned, the reboots and requels that they were trying to do. But for meta horror too, it's not like there's a lack of them. It's not like other people are not making commentary of it. You have movies like Cabin in the Woods. Wes Craven did his own A New Nightmare, which I really like. For A Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's almost like an Inception level type of meta. You have Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. You have one that's literally called Final Girl, where they actually go into a campy horror movie.
Love that one.
Yeah. Behind the Mask of Leslie Vernon is probably the most meta. It's the one where it's a documentary crew that's following a serial killer that wants to be the next, like, Jason Voorhees or the next Michael Myers. And then Get Out, in a way, I think. Jordan Peele has actually gone on to say that he was inspired by Scream, or at least, he gives credit to Scream for Get Out. So what did you actually think about this movie, though? Scream 2022.
I kind of have conflicted feelings on it because I enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily know that it added anything that wasn't already added by Scream 2. It's another film that is aware of itself. It's aware of itself as a sequel or requel, as they call it in the film. So you see a lot of those same kind of satirical kind of looks to it, but, we got that already. I feel like we already had that commentary, and maybe after seeing The Matrix so recently, that also started into that whole, let's try to do a commentary on requels and how this is all just a cash cow and all of that stuff. But it doesn't actually really go anywhere too deep with that. So I feel like this kind of did the same thing for me. And even worse, like, I just feel like if this is what we're going to go to with upcoming sequels and whatnot, you know, we've already seen 2 movies just in the past couple months that have done this. I really don't want this to be the new thing, the new trend. And I guess that kind of made me a little bit afraid of that. But I think the acting was decent in some parts. I do think Jenny Ortega did a really good job. It was fun. There were some fun kills. So I'm kind of conflicted. What about you, Bryant?
Yeah, so you mentioned not wanting this to become the new thing. I think this is already something that's been in place when movies call out themselves, but then they go ahead and do nothing new. It's like they try to give them a free pass because they're being self-aware. But it's kind of like that crappy friend that says, yes, I know I'm a horrible person, and then continues to do the same crap. You know, kind of like BoJack Horseman for a while. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you, though. I was conflicted on some things because I think this is a solid film, but I think it does have some shortcomings. The first thing is my fear, which is this movie is trapped in its own makings. It's trapped not only within the rules of horror, but within the rules of Scream and Ghostface. Downright to you had the beginning phone call scene, which at this point is getting ridiculous because too many people have landlines. Granted, she has a cell phone, but there's also a landline that's ringing. And there was another landline in this film. I'll give you 1 pass for a landline for every 10 people. That's it. You don't get 1 landline for every 5 people. No. However, I was glad to hear Roger Jackson back as the voice. I mean, his voice is great as Ghostface. So it's always great to have him back instead of him somebody replacing him, which was one worry I had. But everything from you expect from a Scream movie is here. You're going to get meta. You're going to get your stabbings, and you're going to get your huge reveal. Now, this meta is focused around requels, which is something we're seeing more of. I thought Matrix was going to try to be that, but from what I'm reading now, not so much. And it doesn't really follow the requel thing aside from a scene or 2. But I think that's kind of a problem with a lot of the requels. And I keep saying requels. I mean requels as in kind of like a reboot and a sequel at the same time and sort of a remake as well. Like they're trying to bring everybody back so that they could kick off from a new point. I think the biggest one was Star Wars Episode 7. It's probably the biggest requel recently. But again, aside from like a scene or 2, this doesn't really do anything new. They make mention to a lot of movies, but it feels like they're just naming movies to have a quota. It doesn't really play any relevancy. Because again, they already mentioned the rules. They're not even introducing new rules. They're just bringing up different properties with different rules that don't apply in the situation. You know, like somebody who's kind of ran out of things to talk about. How did you feel about the meta in this movie?
I agree. I feel like it didn't really go anywhere with it. And I think at one point they started to talk about what I said before, elevated horror. And I thought they were going to go into that a little bit more, but then it just kind of dropped it off. And I feel like they started to have conversations and then it went nowhere. Or, oh, this is a trope that always happens, so we shouldn't do this trope, but then they do it anyways. So, exactly. I don't know. I feel like it just did it, you know, they were making a point to be meta, but it didn't seem purposeful to me. It didn't have the same, you know, when the original Scream, the meta, like they weren't, you know, they're making fun of, you know, Halloween being a big one, and Friday the 13th, these big horror powerhouses. There wasn't really commentary like that, I don't think, and kind of subvert those tropes that were in those movies before. But now that it's being meta for itself, they're not subverting anything, they're just keeping the same conversation.
No, I agree. And it's kind of hard for them to be, you know, to bring up things that are new because they themselves aren't new. So it's not like you can make fun of a lot of the current things that we're seeing because you can't even make this movie similar to that. Like if you were going to do meta horror movies, you have elevated horror and you have the supernatural right now are 2 big things. And supernatural they can't do with Ghostface except for making him an actual ghost, which they sort of try to imply in number 3. And then with the elevated horror, there is something I'm going to bring up during spoilers that I thought, okay, this is the direction they're going to go in because they keep bringing up elevated horror, but that elevated horror doesn't go anywhere. As the horror in this movie, the kills are plentiful. And I think these may have been the best in the franchise because they are the most grounded and the makeup is done very well with that. That's something I'm always a sucker for something and it's down to earth when it's not just totally ridiculous. Like it's not like just a complete bloodbath like Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street. But for some reason they also felt the need to put in constant jump scares, which became annoying super quick. They even try to make a joke out of it by having like the constant jump scare that you'll see, like somebody's behind the corner or behind the door when it closes, and there's this whole scene that does that. But the joke's not that funny, and it goes on for quite some time. I don't even think this movie even needs the jump scares, and then, again, comparing it to the original, they did the jump scares a couple times, but they made fun of it in that way, and they made it comedic. This movie, again, is being self-aware, but it's doing the same thing that it's making fun of. What did you think about the killings in this movie? And the horror element, actually.
Like I said, I think there are some good kills. They seem definitely more gruesome than, well, were more gruesome than the first two films. I think just because of the effects and what we're able to do in today's age with 2022. So they did feel a lot more gruesome. And there was one in particular, I don't know if, I'll wait for the spoiler section, I guess, but I'm remembering the most. But they were fun. They were gruesome. Not all of them were memorable, I would say. And some of them were a little, expected. I mean, you know what's going to happen. You know what's coming. So they didn't really, grab your attention. They didn't really surprise you. But they were pretty gruesome and they were fun to watch, frankly.
And I'll say the third thing that goes with these movies, they almost have to follow, but at the same time, it's the moment that everybody's looking forward to, or at least I'm always looking forward to, which is the reveal. It's not even so much like the whodunit, it's more about what's going to happen once they're revealed and the motivation that they have. I'm not going to talk about the reveal too much, so don't worry about the spoilers. But I can say that this one didn't live up for me. Not because of the reveal itself, but it's because they fall too deep in the nostalgia. And knowing what I know from the predecessors, I'm not going to say which one that it was pulled from, I kind of checked out because I was like, oh, I know what is going to happen from here. And it's not like a cool, like, oh, I know what's going to happen. No, it's like, okay, you guys are doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's still a bloody third act that pays off, but again, it just falls into its own trap.
Yeah, I agree. The reveal itself it was a little disappointing. And I won't really say too much more than that. Although, to be fair, watching Scream 2, that reveal was kind of disappointing as well.
Yeah, Scream 2 kind of comes out of almost nowhere, which is why I'm saying the reveal is not... This isn't like a mystery whodunit. Yeah, you can go back and kind of see some of the clues, but it's not one of those movies where it's really trying to have you follow along as a detective. I don't think. Scream 3 was the one that was most shoehorned in there. That one was complete left field, didn't make any sense. Scream 4, like I said, was actually pretty cool, and the motive made a lot of sense. But another thing for not just Scream, but for all horror movies, one thing that's good to have that people take for granted is a good central cast. Yeah, we can watch people get killed all day. It's easy to find a movie where people get killed all day. But you can't just have a bloodbath for 2 hours. I mean, you can, but you're going to get numb to it pretty quick. So you need something to fill up that space. And the people who are going to be filling up that space are the characters. And you have to have a good cast for that. Which here they present a new young faces, similar to what they did with 4. I think some of these guys are more recognizable. And it is another group of likable teens. And I did actually like these teens. It wasn't forced or anything like that. You don't get too much time with them, but I think you get enough, though there could have been more time with them. We already mentioned a few of the actors and actresses, which we've seen before. Some more than others. But I would say none of them really stood out. But again, none of them fell flat or became annoying, which was nice. Main breakout here is the new protagonist played by Melissa Barrera, who holds this movie pretty well, I think. She's a majority of this film and does well. You may have seen her recently in the Heights.
Yeah, I agree. I actually did really like her character. I think she did a good job at the role that she had. Also, her boyfriend in the film is played by Jack Quaid, who is known for The Boys recently. I think he did a decent job of what he was given. But maybe I'm just biased because I don't know. I enjoy him as a character in The Boys. Because he kind of just plays that kind of goofy guy. There's usually more to him, but like on a surface level, he's just kind of a dweeb. And you don't really like him, but you also kind of like him.
I mean, yeah, he's tall and goofy, gentle giant looking. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, he's not quite a Paul Dano where you just want to punch him or anything, but like, he's just kind of,
Why do you want to punch
gangly.
Paul Dano?
Kind of Weasley. Everyone wants to punch Paul Dano.
All right, calm down, Batman.
Not me. I'm just talking about in every film. Paul Dano's gonna punch in the face. But I don't think Jack Quaid's like that. But he is kind of like, I don't want to say he's full on weasel. Like Paul Dano, he's a weasel. But Jack Quaid's like weasel-esque.
Weasel-esque. I like it.
But like more dweeby.
But, hey, it's not a Scream movie without bringing back that old trio. The old gang, gotta bring them all back. And I gotta say, with the old trio, I don't hate to see them. For one, I love to see Officer Dewey.
I love
I
Dewey.
think Officer Dewey is the true heart and central of this series, more than anybody else realizes. I think that's made even more so in the sequels. And of course, with him comes Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers, played by Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox. So once again, Dewey comes out of retirement to face off against Ghostface, which I can never be mad at. The only problem is that when you have a focus on the old and the new, like when everybody kind of has, they're bringing their own past, you don't get too much focus. You start to split that focus, and it can kind of prevent certain people from standing out. I think some of the new cast gets kind of put in there as cannon fodder, and they could have been given a lot more if we didn't have to bring back this entire trio. Honestly, you could have left it just at Dewey. That was it. Maybe bring Sidney back, like, close to the final act, maybe. But that's an issue that I had. I don't know if you felt the same way, if it was balanced, if it was one-sided.
We kind of had this discussion already for The Matrix Resurrections. There's the same thing. Like, you don't have time to develop all of the characters because you want to make sure you get those big old names back into the story. You do kind of lose something. I agree that it could have been okay with just Dewey, and maybe I'll go into a little bit more spoilers when we get to it with my thoughts on Sydney's appearance in the film. Gale Weathers, I feel like her character didn't really do anything for me in this film, particularly. She was there to kind of show you a little bit of the back and forth of her and Dewey, where their relationship was, because that was always something that was brought up in the Scream franchise. But past that, she has some moments that I enjoy, and like I said, I'll get into a little bit more when we get into the spoilers about how I fully felt about their cameos, but I agree that it was almost a little bit too much. Too cheesy at most of the parts.
Yeah, they do kind of set it up a bit. And I agree, yeah, Gale Weathers didn't need to be in this film. Honestly, you could have probably added something to Dewey's character by her, I don't know, just being, like, completely left his life or ended up dying. Something like that. Her character was the most unnecessary one. But again, you gotta bring it back for the fans.
Also, I feel like it's like the Star Wars treatment. Like, if you bring back two legacy characters that were married at some point, they're going to be divorced by the time the requel comes along. Something happened to the relationship, they're not together anymore. You gotta build that tension back again, and it just kind of felt overdone to me.
Well, Caitlyn, I don't know what you're expecting. Are you trying to imply that there's a way that we could write more interesting ways for characters to age? Because the only thing I understand is that, yeah, when two older people grow up, they get divorced off screen.
Yeah, of course, at some point I'm going to hit, 45 and I'll be on my first divorce, it'll be fine. And then we'll come back to this podcast and we'll give it a break for a little bit. We'll come back and share our divorce stories.
Yeah, pull you out of retirement, start hearing like some beer bottles shuffling in the background.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like, either you're an alcoholic or you're divorced or both.
Most of the time it's both, except
Usually
for Star
both.
Wars. Even though we know Han Solo is drinking on the side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Got his best drinking buddy there, the Wookiee. He knocks him back, that Wookiee.
Oh yeah, that's why he can understand him. Because he's not speaking Wookiee, he's just speaking drunk.
Slurred
and he knows
speech
that
forever.
all too well.
Surprise, the Wookiee was drunk the whole entire series.
Yeah, and R2-D2 is just on speed. Everything makes sense. But I think this is still a solid horror film. It's probably going to satisfy your craving, but it's not going to, and that wasn't a pun for Wes Craven, but it's not going to deliver more than that. And also with, actually I mentioned that Wes Craven, with him missing, did you feel that at all with this film? I think the direction was still pretty solid. One thing I really liked about this one is that I think they made Ghostface seem even more threatening. There were a lot of shots when he was kind of hunched over, and just the way the camera and the music was just made him look more of a threat than the others.
I would agree with that. I would say that I do think Wes Craven's directing was out. And I think it's because I was reading a review earlier that mentioned how if Wes Craven had directed this, he would have probably brought more out of the actors than what we saw. Because I feel like you said, a lot of these actors, especially the younger, they just kind of felt a little bit two-dimensional in parts. And they felt, just like repeats of the normal Scream cast. Like the expert is always the same. And that's even in Scream the TV series too. There's always the expert. And there's always, the couple. There's always the doofus kind of creepy guy in the corner. But, so I feel like I agreed that, like the original Scream, even though this is our first time seeing those tropes, like each actor in the original Scream brought something of their own. There was nuance, there was good performances, even for something that was a comedy. And so I do agree that maybe we would have gotten a little bit more from these characters if Wes had been directing.
So, Caitlyn, I'm going to say something that's not towards you, it's towards whoever wrote that article that you read. All right, and I'm going to call Film Snob right out the bat. Oh, well, it's not the genius Wes Craven. You can obviously tell that he's missing. No, you haven't seen Scream 3 and 4? There is a character throughout it that doesn't even fit the movie. And you have other characters that just come in and just go. They just deliver a line. I really feel like Wes Craven was tied down for 3. I think with his buddy Kevin Williamson back, or I'm guessing they're buddies. In Scream 4, the characters felt better. But again, it's nothing really more than this film. I think, again, it's that imbalance. You don't have that time to spend with the other characters. But I can tell you right now, whoever wrote that article, they're trying to fill their mind with, oh, nothing can be better than the great.
No, I don't think so. It didn't come off that way at all. But I mean, you just have to look at the original Scream and the Friday the 13th. Just looking at those, there are characters that I felt were well acted. I don't necessarily think... Sorry, not Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street. I was getting my...
You know how many bad emails we're going to get now?
I know. I was thinking, all those classic horrors, all the same. No, just kidding. I actually am not a big fan of Friday the 13th, but I do like Nightmare on Elm Street. Same. But with Johnny Depp's character, even as a side character, you see acting. I feel like a lot of these teenagers, especially the expert, there was just not a lot of acting that was good. Jenny Ortega aside, and the new lead... Sam, she was decent. I wouldn't say she was the best actress that there was, but looking at the original Scream with Sydney, I think Neve Campbell, I think she was a good actress in that original Scream, and then looking at this one, she's not. So good acting a lot of times just is a direct effect of.
I mean, another testament I have to that is the character Judy Hicks. I thought was a better character this time around, and she was somebody that was introduced in Scream 4, and she was another animated character.
Oh, I hated her.
I still didn't like her in this, but she was so much better compared to what she was in Scream 4.
Then she must have been god-awful in Scream 4, because I thought she was awful in this movie.
Yeah. So I think everybody does a good performance, but again, I don't think anybody has the chance to really stand out, unless, it's their time to die.
I don't know. I'm of the opinion that I feel like my opinion, especially recently, I think after watching, so I'm gonna sidebar a little bit. I didn't think Kristen Stewart was a good actress for a long time, and then I watched Personal Shopper recently, and my opinion changed. And there's a lot of actors that are like that I thought were bad actors, and then they get that good movie, and you realize what a difference good directing makes for acting. And she's in Spencer too. Obviously, she's a good actress. But when she was in movies with bad directors, she seemed like a bad actress. So, if you have a movie that has poor performances, which, aside from the ones I mentioned, I think it does have some really poor performances. So, I don't know. You have to blame the director a little bit for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree the director does have a huge portion to play when it comes to acting. He or she can really bring out the acting capabilities of those in front of the camera. I think this pair of directors, though, Matt Bentinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, who did Ready or Not. They did Ready or Not, they did Southbound, they did VHS. I think for Ready or Not, I didn't like Ready
Which VHS?
The first one.
Which VHS short? But which one in VHS? The first one?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, I'm looking that up. I will say for Ready or Not, I did not like that movie,
I
but
like that one.
the characters were really good. I think the characters were well directed. I think that was the good thing for me in that movie was the character performances. It was more the story that I didn't care for. VHS, they did Radio Silence. I don't remember which one that was. I did like Southbound, though. That's an underrated horror film.
I think I tried to watch that one. I couldn't get into it. I will agree with you, though, that I do think Ghostface, he did seem more threatening, but I don't know if I needed that.
I think it was a nice change. I mean, I'm up for change at this point. I mean, honestly, the only thing you can do for Ghostface at this point is making him an actual ghost. So making him more threatening is something I liked. And it's not like they made him, it's not like they boosted him up or gave him an upgrade. It's just the way they played with the camera and things.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that I did disagree with you when you talked about that one kind of tracking that kind of played on the jump scare kind of trope. I did kind of like that scene. I enjoyed it for what it was, because I don't know, it gave me a chuckle.
Maybe because I've seen Scream 3 and 4 as well recently. Like, I mean, I saw Scream 3 Thursday, 4 Friday/Saturday morning, then I saw this movie Saturday, and then kind of making that joke again and again, and then to see the same joke but have it longer, I wasn't feeling it. No, but I don't know. It is a good fake out. It's just something I've seen too many times, and it's not like this movie doesn't do the fake outs more so. I mean, they have the whole person runs a stop sign, has to brake on the vehicle while a car comes, super loud across the screen because that's how cars work. It constantly has that. If it was a one and done, I would have been cool with it. But again, it's something it just does over and over. Alright, everyone. Before we go ahead and unmask Ghostface himself, herself, themselves, no self, I want to go ahead and give you a warning that we're going to be getting into spoilers here. Okay? So with the spoiler discussion, we are going to go more in depth into the movie. We're also going to discuss whether this movie was actually needed. Was it warranted? Was it unwanted? We're going to emphasize, what this movie did well in the perspective of its franchise and what it could have done better. Because it sounds like right now, between Caitlyn and I, the movie did have some goods and some bad. But if you haven't seen the movie, pause this episode right now. Go get your movie tickets. Okay, go see the movie and then come back on the ride home. Plug us up in the vehicle or on the bike, however you're getting from one place to the other. I don't judge. And yeah, then join us now because we are going to be getting into, I would say that for this movie, there are some huge spoilers that could ruin the film, such as, again, the big reveal, which is such a huge point for this franchise. So, alright, you better be gone. I'm serious. We're getting into it. Okay.
Side note, though, if you are going to go see this film, please be careful. COVID's going a little bit crazy here with the Omicron, so go see a matinee. Don't go, Saturday night, crowded theater. I'm still kind of waiting for theaters to bring back their limited capacity, but until then, just be smart, wear your masks in a theater, try to keep some space between you and the other patrons if you can.
You brought this up, the CGI. As it was shown in the trailer, a lot of the cast is related to people in the previous movies. At first I thought it was just going to be all the serial killers, but no, it's the serial killers, it's the victims, it's the sheriffs. Everybody's family is being brought back in these movies, which is usually something I don't like in a movie. But it's not like they're trying to make this, it's a big surprise and this is like, everything the movie was pointing towards. So I did like it in this. I think it was an interesting point. However, I don't think it really gave much more to the film, especially the main character, Melissa Barrera's character, who actually happens to be the love child of Billy Loomis and her mother. Her mother and Billy Loomis at some time during high school. I'm not sure what year of high school he was in. And honestly, don't think about it too much. I'm about to start talking about it. I'm about to start getting myself confused when you really look at it. But Billy Loomis did have a teenage affair with another woman. Of course, Billy Loomis did die. So she went on to give birth to the child, saying that it belonged to another man, her current husband. And this turns out to be the parents of our main protagonist. And it takes it a step further. We go ahead, as we're following her, we find out that she's been having hallucinations of Billy Loomis at the age she was in high school, of course. And I'm not sure if it's a de-aged or a pure CGI Skeet Ulrich, but we do get a couple scenes where he does come back, and we see him in her reflection. And again, I thought this is where they were going to bring up the points of elevated horror. Because in a lot of elevated horror, it's a lot of psychological horror. It's, hey, were they the killer the whole time? Is this all in their mind? They make you question a lot of it. This movie doesn't make you really question it. It just brings it up. And I don't really think it has relevancy in this. It kind of shows like she has a darker side in her. But it's not anything that makes you really think like, oh, she's definitely the killer. It doesn't sway you like elevated horror really does. Again, if this movie had more time for a character, maybe we could start to see that. But for me, I don't think this was very necessary. I mean, it was cool, but it was another one of those cool but could have been cooler. And as far as the CGI, it looked decent until there was one shot where they looked a little too closely. And you can see the CGI or makeup or whatever they're doing. You can see that a little too much.
So, I believe it was a de-aged Skeet Ulrich. I don't think it was entirely a CGI. I think it was de-aged. But whenever you do this, you kind of go into the uncanny valley, I guess it's called. It didn't look bad. I think it looked a lot better than other CGI characters I've seen in films. And I think it helps too that a lot of the scenes, they kind of keep them kind of blurred, kind of into dark, so you don't have a chance to really look too closely all the time. Kind of always has his hair in his face anyways. But it wasn't awful as far as CGI goes. It wasn't as bad as some of the ones that Star Wars has done. But it is what it is. I mean, it's not real. It's not entirely real, but it wasn't bad. It was better than other ones I've seen, I think.
Yeah, I do think it was better than other ones. Is this what you were talking about when you said that this movie seemed like it was going to go the elevated horror route?
Yes. Yeah, I was about to get into that. Yeah, I thought it was. And part of what I like about Scream bringing back, everyone's kind of related, is that it almost feels a ripoff of Halloween, the Halloween series, because that's another film where, you kind of see this generational, sequence of events, this ties to characters together. I think the newer Halloweens don't have this quite as much. I think there might have been a retcon in there, if I'm remembering correctly, but I might be wrong. I'll have to rewatch that. For me, especially the ending scene, you do kind of see this darker side to Sam. And so, I almost kind of wanted it to go like the Jamie Lloyd from Halloween. I kind of wanted to go that route where you're not expecting, but something kind of switches and she ends up being not necessarily this ghost face, but I wanted to kind of see something kind of switch in her consciousness where she kind of goes off on this killing spree.
Yeah, I would like to either see that or see some scenes that make you question what she was actually doing. Whether, she was doing some questionable actions, because her mind was switching, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she doesn't have a good reason or a good alibi because she wasn't in the right state of mind. That could have been cool. And that would have been the elevated horror that this movie was pointing towards. And again, the movie doesn't make a huge thing out of it, but they say it more than once, which starts to get you thinking, is this something more?
Yeah, and I think that we haven't really seen too much meta when it comes to elevated horror either, except for the last Fear Street, maybe, when it kind of but references The Witch in a way. But other than that, we really haven't seen meta of elevated horror. So I think it's something that I would be interested in seeing, but maybe it didn't. I don't know that it would fully fit in the Scream franchise, but I wish they had just done a little bit more.
Yeah, honestly, again, this is where the movie, if it had the right focus, if it wasn't focused so much on its past, it could have been that. You could have, done something new where they reveal who the killer is or who you think the killer is, and then you start to follow that person And then you start to see that, well, they're out of their mind. Maybe they didn't actually do the killings. Maybe it was this person, or maybe they didn't do it at all. There's a lot of things that you can do with elevated horror, but the thing with elevated horror that you also have to do is you have to have a good character, and you have to have a lot of time with that character, because if you don't, then you start to get cheap plot points, which this movie doesn't do, but you need to be able to focus on that character to start making the audience question. But we don't get the time to do that because we're still too busy doing what Scream needs to do.
Yeah, I agree.
And speaking of what they need to do, so I got Ghostface over here, backed up into a corner with a butcher knife, about to take the mask off. We ready to tell them who it is? Big whodunit?
Before we get into this, I do want to get into this. I'm excited. Just hold off a second ago. Hopefully it won't escape. But I want to talk a little bit more about bringing back the old characters, those kind of the legacy characters for a second. Because there was a little bit more I wanted to say on that. So, Dewey, I think Dewey was brought in fine. Dewey belonged in this movie, I think, to a degree. You know, so, the Scream TV series wasn't perfect, but I like that it didn't try to be Scream. It was its own new thing. And I almost feel like I appreciated that a little bit more. I mean, it definitely is an MTV teen drama, and it has faults as being that. But it has some good kills, it had some good, moments, and I like that it didn't try to be that so hard. But, this definitely is going for, the stereotypical requel. So we brought in these old characters, and like I said, Dewey was alright. We can have Dewey. But there was a scene where he calls Sidney Prescott, and he says, "Do not come back, no matter what you hear." And she said, "I have no intention of going back." And then she hangs up the phone from wherever she is. She's walking her kids, wherever town she's living in now. And I kind of thought that was going to be it. I thought that was all that we were going to see of Sidney, and I was so happy. I was like, oh, thank goodness. They're not going to bring her in. I'm tired of Sidney's story. I'm glad that it's just going to end here for Sidney, and we'll just keep it with Dewey. But no, she still comes back anyways. And I'm like, why? She said that she wasn't going to go back no matter what. Why couldn't we just ended it there for Sidney's story? And then you'll have to tell me for Scream 3 and 4, as far as Gale Weathers and Dewey, is it every Scream that Dewey gets stabbed in the back and Gale gets shot in the stomach? Is that just the Scream staple for every single one?
Close to it. So at this time, they mentioned in the movie that Dewey has been stabbed 9 times. The 4th one, he isn't stabbed, but he is bludgeoned to unconsciousness.
Okay.
I think he may get slashed or something, but slash and stabbing, you can walk off a slash in these movies. That's no big deal. But yeah, Gale doesn't always get hit. She does get stabbed. She does get stabbed in one of the movies. But I think there's a movie where she almost gets attacked, but Dewey ends up shooting the person. They have a bulletproof vest on, of course. But their relationship is kind of this on and off thing again, because in 3, they're not together anymore. And then they end up getting back together in 3. And they're actually almost the main focus in 3. They're doing a lot. Sidney Prescott doesn't come back in. Neve Campbell, she doesn't return to the movie or comes into the movie till about 50 minutes when she rejoins, to make the trio complete again. You see her for a couple scenes, but not much. So it is a large portion focusing on them. And then kind of the 4th one as well. The 4th one, they are married. They're happy and everything. They did get back together. And then again, yeah, they got divorced because why not?
Yeah, I just feel like everyone I've seen, Dewey's dies. I'm just going to say he dies, because I think he was originally supposed to just be killed off, and they brought him back, if I'm remembering correctly. But every Scream 1, Scream 2, this new one, Dewey's just gone. He gets the worst of it. And then you don't see him for the rest of the movie. And then Gale, she always gets shot, gets injured, goes down. And then a couple of minutes later, surprise, I'm actually okay. I'm going to save the day.
Yeah, that's almost similar to the other ones as well. I would just say that she doesn't get up in the 4th one, and she stays down for quite a bit. No. She does get back up. Yeah.
She's resilient.
Yeah, they're all resilient. Even more so than Ghostface. And Ghostface wears a bulletproof vest. And actually, remind me to talk about Gale. No, I got it in my notes. I'll talk about Gale Weathers some more as well when we get to the reveal. Okay. But yeah, I agree. Neve Campbell didn't need a return for this film. I was kind of glad when she said, I ain't coming back there. I was like, thank you, don't. I'm like, not because, I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to focus on these people. And then Gail Weathers comes back, and that's just there. She doesn't provide anything else. It's not like she solves anything. And that's the thing. She's kind of set up in the third one as the third and fourth one. She says like she solved these because she wrote the book on it. But not really. She just happens to be there when the reveal is done. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, I don't know, it was cheesy, but I also didn't mind seeing kind of the Sydney Gale buddy. We're in this together. We're going to end this bad guy together. It was cheesy. I didn't need it. But I don't know. If I'm going to have some kind of fan service, I'm like, okay, whatever, girl power.
So, our killer is here. The reveal is that it's our true friends, Mickey Madison and Jack Quaid. And everybody's like, gasp. Who are they? Well, Amber, being the friend of the first victim, not the first victim who died, but the first victim in the movie, of Jenna Ortega, I believe her character's name was Tara. And then Jack Quaid being the love interest of our main protagonist. You see how they brought it back to the franchise?
Yeah, and Tara, by the way, is the sister of Sam, our main protagonist, half-sister, we find out, because she's not the daughter of Billy Loomis. She's the daughter of the other guy that the mother tried to say was both of their fathers, but was not true. But I will say it did subvert me a little bit with the fact that she lived instead of, because I thought she was dead, that she was done for, and then you find out she's just injured. So that was a little different, I think.
Yeah, no, I like that. That was cool. That the victim, who usually will be like strung up in a tree or brutally butchered, actually survives. Because whoever was the ghost face during that time must be a surgeon, because they stabbed her like 15 times, but, no organs that are vital.
And I was just happy to see her back, because like I said, I do think that they were right to put the promotions on her, because I do think she gave a better performance than the rest of the cast, of the new cast. Maybe in general.
Yeah.
Especially when she was, like, getting out of her hospital bed, and I was hurting for her. She made me believe she was in pain when she was, she was injured, wounded, but she knew Ghostface was coming, so she was getting her ass out of that bed.
Yeah, I believe the directors probably pushed her down that abandoned hospital stairs before setting her back in the bed and yelling action. Yeah, it was a struggle when she was moving. Speaking of which, quick side note, what is up with the hospitals in these movies?
I don't know.
Scream 4 kind of set it up. Scream 4, there was an announcement. It was like, all non-emergency personnel report downstairs or wherever. So that's like, okay, that's why the hospital is empty. But in this one, it was empty. For no reason.
Well, they said that they were giving her a private floor. But of course, watching this in 2022, okay. I'm like, they don't have a private floor. That hospital is booked and busy. it has to be.
Town.
I guess. But just, being in COVID era, it felt so, it took me out, that I couldn't, it took me out of that realm of disbelief.
They probably just packed them in more rooms. I'm like, what's going to happen if you put more COVID people in the same spot? They're not going to get COVID again. I don't know. I'm not a real doctor. Don't take my advice.
But I'm just saying that they hadn't have anyone in the hospital, so they could afford to give her an entire floor all to herself, and no nurses or anything. Just, I mean, good for that town, I guess, that they just have no sick, they don't have any elderly, they don't have anyone injured, that they can afford to just give an entire floor of their hospital to this one little girl. I mean, good for them, good for that town, I guess. They're getting murdered, but they don't have any injured. Just one little girl.
This small town is weird. I don't understand it, because it seems a lot larger than it actually is, and also the hospital is quite large, because in the fourth one, their parking garage is 10 floors. I remember that. So, I don't know. It's like they got more hospital than they have people in the town. Maybe it's like a central hub or something. I don't know. This is the real movie that I want to see. The Grey's Anatomy of Woodsboro.
Yes, definitely.
And all its malpractices.
I mean, it's not like it's the first horror movie that we've seen do that, and I guess it could be seen as a riff on that, on other horror movies.
No, not letting it pass. But going back to these killers, the reason, like I said, it's not so much the reveal, it's their motivation, or at least that's what I really look forward to. And with the reveal of this, looking back at it too, I think it makes sense why these two characters Like, when you look back at it, you can go, oh, okay, yeah, that was suspicious. Like, I did think it was suspicious when they were both kind of going back and forth with this banter, accusing each other. Like, you guys just met like a couple hours ago. How are you this comfortable with saying, no, you're the killer? No, you're the killer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was kind of cool. But the reason that they are the killers is because they're enraged, diehard fans, which I thought was pretty cool for a requel. You know, having these diehard fans of the franchise. But again, this is something where they just kind of throw a couple lines. Like, I did get a couple laughs, but it was nothing more than that for me. I wasn't any more invested. Especially, again, like I was saying, we're back in the same kitchen of the same house, of course, as the first movie. I was like, I know how this plays out. And it's not any more like, oh, I wonder how they're going to get out of this, or because also the killers at this time were making dumb decisions. It didn't make sense. They were outnumbered, 4-2. Yeah, they thought one girl was tied up. They thought. And then why not kill Gale Weathers? Because they're sitting over there. There's two people. One is, I guess, like a 17-year-old. The other one, yeah, he's a full-grown male. And the rest are like 3 injured adults. And they're not even like morally injured. They're just minorly injured. Why not take out one of them? Why not just shoot Gale right then and there? I get it, you got a monologue, but do you need a 3-wide audience for that? So like I said, this isn't one of my favorite reveals of the series. I mean, it's better than 3. It may be on the same level as 2, but like I said, 4 I actually like the most next to the first one.
Yeah, I always did think it was going to be the sister for a little bit in the movie when I was watching it, that, the sister, Jenny Ortega's character, was mad that her sister never shared, but she was the daughter of Billy Loomis. She blames her for her parents breaking up. So the motivation was there. And so it did cross my mind that it was going to be the sister for a minute until Jack Quaid's character was like, how do we know that your sister's not the killer? And as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh no, it's you. You're the killer. I see now. Never mind.
It was before that I was suspecting him. When they were in the elevator, he gave a weird look to Dewey running back to shoot Ghostface in the head, which of course didn't work. But when I saw that, and then, yeah, he kind of made some other suspicious movements. I was like, I think it is him. Amber kind of came out of nowhere, but it made sense.
Is her name Amber? Why was I thinking her name was Emma?
That was Amber.
Was there an Emma in this film? Amber, that's how forgettable it was. Like, I don't know. Her character was annoying to me. I mean, Stu was annoying in the first film, but, I mean, in a very dramatic kind of way. I mean, you can't beat Matthew Lillard.
That's the thing. I can't compare anybody to Stu because I can't compare them to Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
It's not a fair competition at that point. Like, that's just, it's too great of a character, it's too great of a performance that I'm glad no one has really even tried to be him.
But I feel like just with this Amber girl, I'm like, okay, this is an actress who was just reciting lines that she was given, and she's meant to be this character. I never felt like she was a real character. I thought she was just an actress playing whatever that they gave her.
Yeah, I thought they could have done more with her. And again, if we had more time to focus on these characters, now Scream's gotta scream. Yeah, it just did not make sense to me, that ending. And I mean, even so much, they were going to do the same exact thing that they did in the first film. So that's the point of the film where I just kind of, I don't even know if I really checked out, but it kind of dipped for me. Like, the whole third act was going well. I really liked when the one twin actually looked behind her. That was actually funny. To finally see a horror character look behind them. Like, oh, crap.
Too late, though. After Randy on the TV's yelling at her.
Yeah, I mean, she took a shoulder stab. That's better. With her surviving, and I don't mean to make this, a race thing, but I think there was a little bit of I think something was made intentionally. I think there was a race commentary in there. So both of the twins end up surviving. And they're biracial twins. So with the twins, both of the twins, they're two of the characters of color in this film, and they both end up surviving, though they have been attacked. And we find out that the two killers are two of the white characters. And they even make a point in the movie where they're talking about how studios bring out these franchises and they try to do all these different things to it and they try to make it more diversified. So them saying diversity and them being the enraged fans, I think they were kind of trying to make a commentary on these white diehard fans getting mad at diversity in these films. And I found that a little funny. I don't know if that was intentional, but I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
And I mean, if they did do that intentionally, I think that was extremely clever. I think this movie does have some clever points, but again, is held back. This is something...
I think if I hadn't have watched 2, I think the whole fan thing wouldn't bother me so much. But the whole idea of, oh, this is a fan, I'm a fan, and I'm going to make the sequel by killing these people, and this will be the sequel. Like, we've already seen that with Scream. And I do agree that they missed an opportunity to make some kind of commentary on fandom culture. Because, I mean, horror fans are, I'll say, passionate. Horror fans are very passionate people, and especially when something doesn't go their way. And I'll say that with all fans. Any fan of any of these requels, they are very particular about what they want. And if they don't get it, they're going to be very upset. And I think you could have had an opportunity to really, have that. I think that's another opportunity for that elevated horror, that you could kind of go more into, what that kind of culture means. But, we lost that. It didn't really go that deep into it.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about while we have the spoilers up before we, get into our next portion?
I will say I did like the scene, even though we didn't get the whole Sam switching to be the villain in this. I did like the scene where she was killing Jack Quaid's character. I thought it was fun to watch because she went off.
That was funny.
That was really fun.
Like, what about my ending?
Yeah.
Oh, I do remember now. Sorry, you mentioned the filming and trying to make a new sequel. That was actually the plot of the fourth film. The fourth film, they believed that the killer was videotaping this so that they could basically reboot the franchise of what's known in this movie as Stab.
I mean, that was also a beat in the second one, to a degree. Maybe not to the whole degree, but it was brought up a couple times in that movie as well. Another thing I want to talk about before we kind of give it our reading, what do you think, now that we're in the spoiler section, we can talk about, the kills a little bit more, and what was iconic kills to us and what was not so iconic. And I want to talk about a little bit, was it Sheriff Judy and her son?
Yes.
Her death scene, I hated. I thought she was annoying. We all saw that was coming, or at least I saw that was coming. And so I hated that death scene. But her son's, I don't know that the way it went down was memorable, but the whole knife through the face thing and the effects of into there, it was kind of gruesome. I mean, you could tell it was CGI a little bit, but it was still pretty gruesome.
Was that CGI? I thought that was practical. Was
it? I thought it was CGI.
It looked practical to me. If not, it's some great CGI. But
no. I think never mind. You're right. It was practical. I think I'm mixing up a couple different scenes. But that did look gruesome. However they did it. I think maybe it was a mixture of both.
Yeah, no, I agree. That one was pretty gruesome, especially it's so slow. You see a lot of people get stabbed in the neck, but again, with this movie being grounded, it's kind of almost that imperfection. It wasn't in the middle of his neck or anything, like it was right on the side. It was still a what's the word? It was still a mortal wound, but it was taking its time. And then also he was wondering, the whole time if he was actually going to be able to reach and get the taser, even though at this point he's already done for. And I think with this character I cared for as well, because I did feel bad about that death. That's one of the characters I was like, oh man, like
I did too.
It was one of the more innocent deaths in this one.
And I'm glad they didn't make him the expert, because I was expecting that, because it's always the nerdy white boy that's the expert.
Yeah, no, this was just a good kid. One of the questions I said that I was going to ask you during the spoiler discussion is, talk about what works and what doesn't work. But I think we talked about that enough through this discussion and through the review. My question actually for you, and maybe we'll integrate this into the future shows, do you think this should continue? Do you think there's anything to salvage? Do you think that we can continue with this new cast? Or do you think that Ghostface has finally killed it?
I have mixed feelings. I think I would like to see Sam's kind of corruption, more of her story, and kind of going down that path. But I don't necessarily know that I really fully need it. I would like it, but do I need it? No. Especially if it's not going to be another film that's exactly like this. And also, like, where can you really go with it, that story anyways, in another Scream movie? Because I'm not sure that you can, unless they went in a completely different direction. I said I enjoyed the Scream TV series for what it was. I think there's room to continue the franchise, but let Sydney be done. Let that whole story be done. Just do something completely new. Like, that's what I need. I'm just so tired of all these requels with the legacy characters and not doing anything new. I like this franchise enough that I would like to hope that they could maybe one day go somewhere with it that's not the same old, same old. If this is any premonition of what that could be, then no, just let it end. I enjoyed it, but I just do not want another Scream movie where it's the same old thing.
I agree. And like I was saying with this movie, it calls itself out, but it does the same thing again and again, to where I'm going to have to remove myself from this toxic relationship. I'm going to listen to all my friends and understand that there's nothing else for this franchise. I think in this movie, if they were to go ahead and kill Gale Weathers, if they were to be more ruthless with the old cast, because even with Dewey's death, and it did feel impactful, it almost feels like they checked the block in that as well, to show that, hey, we're being ruthless. But you still didn't take that step further. Yeah, exactly. You still didn't take that step forward. And I think, if they did kind of get rid of the old cast, then yeah, we can go ahead and start with this new cast and maybe go more into the elevated horror that seems to be on the mind of our main protagonist in this one. But I wouldn't trust the series to do so. And I would like just for cast and crew and everybody who has ideas for this, and just to move forward and make another meta horror property. You mentioned the Scream TV series. There's another TV series out there that did a great job that reminds me a lot of Scream, which was Scream Queens, which also has Emma Roberts in it, Jamie Lee Curtis, and actually has a great cast in it. I think I tried to get you to watch that one time.
I'm not a big fan of Emma Roberts. Or Ryan Murphy. Ryan Murphy's also hit or miss to me. Well, more miss than hit.
This series was a hit for me. At least the first season was. It only has 2 seasons. The first season worked for me really well.
Wasn't Billie Lourd in it too?
Yeah, she is. And Abigail Preston.
I think I watched the first episode.
And then there's another actor in there I like that I want to see more of. I can't remember his name. But anyway, no, I don't think this movie has anything else. Unless they want to go ahead and accept the script that I came up with, then, I'm totally for it.
Let's hear it.
All right. So I'm going to moralize it on this podcast. Okay? I thought it would be cool if they got real meta like a New Nightmare did, where the actors played themselves, because in a New Nightmare, it shows that in this, at least in that movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street is a film that Wes Craven directed, and then Wes Craven himself and the actual cast is getting haunted by Freddy Krueger in the supposed real world, the real world that this sets it up in. That'll be getting super meta. If they were to go ahead and they were to bring back a lot of the cast and crew of these past films, I was thinking, like, if you got them back in like a court setting, like for some reason they all had to return into one setting location, and then somebody starts picking off the quote unquote real actors of these movies, I think that would be something really meta and really cool to do. So producers of this film, Paramount, if you are listening, I got some notes. You got my information. I can get your information.
So Stab would be a film within a film? Within a film?
No, we're taking out Stab. I'm tired of Stab.
I'm very tired of Stab. Like I said, I haven't watched 3 and 4, and I'm already tired of Stab.
Yeah.
It's not funny anymore.
What they do at the beginning of 4 is funny because the way they started off is that they were watching a whole movie the whole time, and then they step back, and then that's another layer of the movie that they're watching, and then they have to take another step back, and it was someone watching a movie of someone watching a movie. So it kind of had that double layer of meta on it. That was kind of cool, but I mean, if we do something quick like that, and that'll probably be the first thing in my movie. It's like, hey, we'll make a quick mention of Stab, and then no one can do it again.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't have mind Stab in this new one so much if it wasn't in the other movies. If that makes sense. Like, because I rewatched the second Scream after I had watched the new one. I was like, oh crap, I forgot Stab was in this. And yeah, I liked it when I forgot the second one existed.
What letter grade would you give this?
I'm gonna go with,
I'm actually going to go with the C+ as well. Now, that is a passing grade, and for the most part, a bit positive. However, Paramount, if you're still listening, if you're not already on the phone, about to call me, no, I don't want another one of these. Again, unless it's my movie.
I'll give Jenny Ortega herself an A, but the movie C+.
I would like to see more from Melissa Barrera. In The Heights, she was alright. In this, she's good. I feel like this is another one. I think if you get the right director on her, or you give her the right story, I think a lot can be pulled from her. I actually didn't like her character and her story in The Heights.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like her. I like her as an actress. I do think we can see more for her with better material.
Alright, guys, so, well, hopefully you already seen the movie. If not, well, hey, should you go watch it? I think you should still, this is one of those, if you're interested, by all means, go and watch it. I don't think this is anything to rush out to. I don't think this is anything that needs the theater experience, especially if you're going to be risking it during the nighttime. Kayla, I don't know how you feel. Is this a theater experience? Like, is this warranted? Or can you wait a little bit?
It's like I said, with COVID, it's a whole different, I would say you could probably wait a little bit, unless, you have a good theater. I think with a lot of horror movies, you need to have a good theater crowd in there to help you enjoy it.
That's a double-edged sword.
Not so much, not at the level of Scream 2, the costumes and everything of that. Not so much, but, maybe wait and watch it with, like, a group of friends. That's actually how I would recommend it, I think. Watch it with a group of friends.
I'll say right now, go watch Scream 4 and let me know what you think of that movie. Do you think that the critics were too hard on that film? Or do you think I'm being too easy on it? And you're probably wondering, well, okay, but how do I talk to this podcast? And I would say, well, one, you're already questioning me, so you're kind of doing it. But no, there's somewhere you can actually get a hold of me directly. Caitlin, where can they find us?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at OpSilverScreen. We're also on Facebook as Operation Silver Screen. Once again, Twitter and Facebook, though, that's just OpSilverScreen.
You can also find us at our letterboxes now.
I didn't know if we wanted to read a letter or not. I didn't know if we wait until the next episode for that or not.
Revealing everything tonight. We're revealing our opinions, the killers, our letterboxes. Caitlin, where can they find your letterbox?
Would you say this is an elevated podcast?
Very much so.
So my letterbox, if you want to see what I'm currently watching, what I think of those films, I also have a list on there that just kind of notes all the films that we've been watching on this podcast. My username is CoffeeSpoonKate. I'm also going to be putting a link to these on our social media when the episode drops. So you can also look there. We'll have links there if that's easier for you to find.
Yes, and you can find me at the much cooler username, Swank Seal. Yes, Swank Seal, all one word, capital S, capital S. And you can see all the movies that I've been watching. I started this year. So the first movie I watched was Orphan, starting the year off by starting it off. And then also I am going to be posting my review of this film in my letterbox. And I'm probably just, for good practice and writing, I'm going to start posting all of my reviews because I have opinions, and apparently people want to hear them, so I'm going to be putting them in my letterbox.
Yeah, but just as a note, reviews for the films that we're putting on this podcast, we won't be reviewing them on Letterboxd until after the episode has aired, so no sneak peeks. So if you really want to know, be the first to know what our opinions are, you gotta listen to the podcast.
Yes, I'll probably wait like a week or two to actually reveal my review on Letterboxd, or I'll just start typing up reviews and then leave a cliffhanger. And then, to sum it all up, and then bam, just leave.
I love it.
Yeah, so as I said, this is our bonus objective. All right, so make sure to go ahead and take a listen at our core episodes where we do give a deep debrief and analysis of must-see films that Caitlyn and I, whether it be one of us or both of us, have yet to see. So, till next time, I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.